And we're back with an episode of Geek Centurions. Me, your boy Eli.
It's me, Joe.
So we got two things to talk about today. We have the Ahsoka finale and the Loki premiere. So
Yeah,
there's two things.
yeah. The ending of one show and the beginning of another season of Loki.
And another thing to make my head go.
But yeah, which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's go with Ahsoka. It's the one we've talked about the most, and the one we can probably wrap up the fastest.
Yeah, in a way, pretty much it does. Obviously it's the final episode.
Yeah.
So Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine, they plan their final attack on Thrawn, and Ezra builds his new lightsaber for himself, which is kind of neat to see. And yeah, they got a whole thing going on. Thrawn has the Great Mothers, which I think I finally got the name down right.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been kind of in like, is it like some weird name or whatever? But I'm pretty confident it's the Great Mothers. But basically, they do this whole ritual thing with their night troopers, and
Yeah.
we get essentially zombies.
Which are kind of cool, but it's also led to like, I think a problem that a lot of people will have been having with this show, more so than I've seen with anything else. It's the choreography.
Yeah, because obviously this is like a big action episode, right?
Yeah.
It's the big finale. You gotta have some bombastic action here and there, and yeah, I think a lot of people have been sort of talking about like criticizing the choreography of the fight scenes in this episode. I think particularly the one between Ahsoka and Morgan, because Morgan does get like I guess a magic power up from the Great Mothers. Like she gets some.
She becomes the Great Mother herself. She becomes part of the sisterhood,
right?
As they say themselves.
She even gets like a crazy looking sword. Well, I mean, I say crazy, but it has some crazy green magic on it.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that's kind of
neat.
It's able to stand up to a lightsaber, because I guess normally,
Yeah.
because it looks like kind of like a regular sword.
It looks like a katana.
Yeah.
Very obviously.
Yeah. So all that's happening. And, it's kind of neat, but also, yeah, I do agree. Like the choreography is a little off.
Yeah. And I don't blame them, because how old is Rosario Dawson?
She's probably in her 30s at least. I feel. I feel like she has to be in her 30s, right?
She's more. Two guys talking about how old a woman is. How funny that is.
because
she's 44.
Okay, so I'm assuming you're gonna be saying like, okay, she's not as athletically, capable of doing. Because I think that is sort of the one thing the Ahsoka show probably lacks, is that when it comes to these characters who were originally in animated form, right?
Yeah.
From cartoons and stuff. You're allowed to have this expressive, fluid animation and stuff, and like all this fluid combat stuff. Like obviously seeing Ahsoka in the Clone Wars and various other media, like Rebels and stuff, she has a bit more like a cooler, interesting, like dynamic, acrobatic combat style. And obviously you can't really pull that off very much in the live action. Like it'd be very hard. Like you're gonna need like a bunch of wire stuff, like a almost like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon stuff.
Which would have been really cool. Not going wrong.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, that would have been cool. And I don't know if it was in the budget for it to do that. But for the most part, I think it was fine. But yeah, it is kind of, I guess, when you compare it to that, a little underwhelming. Right?
It is, and part of it is, I think that, we're so used to, and a lot of people, this has been going on since the sequels have been coming out, right? A big complaint about the choreography, because like the choreography and in the prequels were so well received. They were able to do like a lot of cool stuff and a lot of things. Well, because I remember like when they were talking about the choreography in for the sequels, and they wanted to go back to that feel of the original trilogy, right? where the swings felt like they have weight to them, and all that stuff. And I kind of get what they were doing, why that in the sequel stuff. I know it's a big contention, but it makes sense what they want to do. They want to like keep it that way,
Uh-huh.
keep that sort of level of consistency in that level of action. Um, Here it's not terrible. I think it feels very funny enough that we're talking about choreography, right? It feels very like okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's like you gotta hit all your marks kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is I think how was talking about it before we recorded. Um, like it's like one of those things where like obviously like saying like a one shot kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like you have to like have everyone like do certain things all at once or whatever, or
Mhm.
wait for your mark kind
Yeah.
of thing. Kind of felt like that's what it was.
Yeah.
Like okay, we reverse the choreography and like we gotta make sure we have everything here, here, here. Once we get to his point, we'll do a thing, and that sort of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like very fluid, like
No.
yeah. Like ironically,
It doesn't help that the camera work makes it feel very still.
yeah, because I think a lot of the fights are very from like a far perspective,
Yeah.
right? So it kind of gives off that like very sort of highly rehearsed. It has to be this, and that.
Mhm.
No like little uh, mistakes and that sort of thing. If there's probably more like as close-ups and stuff, like
Mhm.
editing of the fight to make it look a bit more, you know, like
Frantic.
yeah,
More kinetic, I
yeah,
would say.
kinetic, yeah, probably is a better word, kinetic
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That would have been neat, but
Yeah, cause like I always think about like how I always see like fan lightsaber fights and how they like work the camera to be very like kinetic, almost like anime style. But I've always felt like those are all like okay, but I feel like the camera work is doing most of the heavy lifting about that though. You know,
yeah, I guess you can say that.
like there's some that utilize both really well. I mean, I saw one earlier. I was like, oh, that's so good. Even saw one where like I showed you this earlier today, the Michael Jackson.
Oh, I think yeah, I know what you're talking about,
Yeah,
but I mean that's more like a stop.
stop motion, but like but to my point is that you can have it the movement of the people fighting be very still, yes, but the camera work has to help out a bit. There needs to be a nice balance in the two, to make that sort of like actually feel well. Because I don't think the choreography is terrible. I just think it's very like
Yeah, it's not like one of those things where like, oh, you guys don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, it's pretty obvious. They worked hard on making sure everybody knew how to,
yeah.
practice and do the lightsaber fights and stuff. I mean, heck, I think Rosario Dawson mentioned how she had to have like a trainer specifically, teach her how to wield stuff ambidextrous because
Yeah,
Ahsoka
is an ambidextrous
yeah,
fighter.
she dual wields.
Yeah,
So like for
and
someone that's like
that might also be the case of her having a problem into translating that into a fight scene, right? To make that transition, because like oftentimes with a lot of fighters and a lot of people who are trained in that sort of thing are very reliant on their dominant hand. Uh, Boxers would always keep their dominant hand to the back, orthodox style or southpaw style if their left hand is the more dominant. So I totally understand where she's coming from in that aspect, right? Right, because like you have to teach yourself to use something you're not used to. Maybe that's also why the choreography. And yeah, we're talking a lot about the choreography right now, but I think it's because like it's a very interesting conversation about it, especially from a guy who has done martial arts and stuff like that. So I totally understand where she's coming from and that kind of stuff, right?
yeah, and I mean it's also just kind of it's like it's one of those like eternal debates in the Star Wars franchise of like people do prefer like how the original trilogy sort of handled its lightsaber fights and stuff.
Mhm.
People obviously there are people who prefer the prequel trilogy and all the flashy
Mhm.
flips and like da 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 and kind of stuff. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like Star Wars fans don't really can never be happy. is what
I feel like it's the eternal.
It's the eternal state of a Star Wars fan is that you're never happy.
Yeah.
Like
even before Disney had it.
Yeah, even before Disney bought Star Wars and all that stuff, Star Wars fans were never happy about things.
No, they weren't.
So, yeah, I do find it interesting that this sort of discussions come up again. I mean, again, because I do feel like the choreography is not like bad. It's not
No,
like
it's not.
It just doesn't look cool, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't look as
engaging,
right? It just doesn't seem like, oh, okay, it's just all right, we're just doing this now.
And again, like Rosario Dawson had to learn to be ambidextrous.
Yeah, I mean
that is a very difficult thing to do, right? Like you have to teach yourself, like it is very much a mind over matter over body kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like trying to learn how to write with your left
hand. That's exactly
or,
what it is.
Yeah, do anything with your not dominant hand, and it's like, okay, this feels weird.
Yeah.
Right. Like I could probably like maybe write my name with my dominant hand and then try it with my left hand, and then immediately be like, oh yeah, that
looks terrible.
Yeah, that's
And you already had bad handwriting.
Yeah, I do. I already have that. I have to, to be fair, half of the time when it comes to my handwriting, it's just because I don't care enough to write it good, because I can definitely write good.
Oh no, same here.
It's just that I'm doing stuff fast, and I'd rather like just have it be decently legible instead of looking like friggin' was it Times New Roman? Like
I'm not trying to write like an elven elven
elven
penmanship kind of shit.
I'm not some sort of dude from the 1300s trying to craft his penmanship on writing like some sacred text or whatever. I'm
rewriting the Bible 1,000 times.
Yeah, because there's no printing press, so I'm just trying to fucking write something down. All right.
Yeah.
My brain knows what it says.
Yeah, I understand, and that's all that matters.
But yeah, no. But anyways, I guess back to the main plot of the story.
Yeah.
Ezra manages to get onto the Star Destroyer while Sabine helps out Ahsoka, beat Morgan. However, Star Destroyer with Thrawn, launches it back into the regular Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah.
He has this sort of last sort of like speech to Ahsoka, being like, "Hey, listen, I knew your master. I kind of figured, I planned for some things, and then you definitely exceeded my expectations. Maybe you'll turn out to be
just as a worthy opponent."
That's him. However, I've won today. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. He did win.
I mean, he didn't say that, but very much, yeah, he does. It's like a little victory speech because he does get back. They go back to Dathomir, and as they sort of essentially prepare to get this war started. However, like I said, Ezra's on board, and we find out, like he manages to steal one of the ships, gets back to the New Republic, meets Hera again,
Very, very nice moment.
Yeah, everybody's like, oh my god, it's a stormtrooper. It's like, wait, no, the chopper guy. He's like, it's almost like a puppy or a dog remembering like an old,
Master, you're here.
Yeah, it's like, you ever seen any of those videos where like a dog, where a guy gets sent to the army and comes back and like the dog is like,
dog or kid.
Like a dog or kid, like, just, he's like, oh, especially the dogs, because it's like, they're saying like, who the fuck? And they get the smell like, oh wait, it's you. So yeah, it's
my owner.
Yeah, it's a nice.
It's homeward bound.
Yeah, it's a nice, touching moment. Like he even goes like, "Hey, Hera, I'm home."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful moment too. Nice moment.
Yeah, but obviously, it's like one of those. It's like a hopeful moment.
Yeah.
In the background of like, oh yeah, no, Thrawn's back, like legit.
He is back, and he's raising a zombie army.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's not gonna be fun, I guess.
No, it's not. Obviously, we gotta talk about how Thrawn, kind of like, he is very much a bigger picture kind of guy, right? Like, he even, like, when he was telling, who was it, to Morgan, was like, oh, you talked to them? Like, yeah, do they know? Are they okay with it? It's like, they're willing to go out. I was like, They they'll be honored by their sacrifices.
Yeah.
He's like, no, we need to stall them. That's all that matters. What really matters is us getting the hell out of here and rebuilding the empire. We're gonna be relying on magic because we need to fight magic with magic.
Yeah, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
But yeah. Meanwhile, obviously, Ahsoka and Sabine are now in the Ezra position of like, we're stuck on this planet now.
Mhm.
Well, I guess we'll make the best out of it for now, and we get one last little shot of them sort of looking out into the horizon, sort of just seeing like the after effect of that hyperspace jump.
Yeah.
And they sort of get the feeling like, hey, is there somebody out there watching us, kind of thing. And then as they sort of turn back, it's
good old Anakin.
Force Ghost Anakin, who I feel like they didn't use that de-aging technology this time, because
he does look a little old.
He does look like just regular Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, he does.
Granted, like the other times they've done it, because they did it once with in Obi-Wan, which kind of looked a little which I guess makes it's because it's supposed to be Anakin as a Padawan.
Yeah.
But then like the one when they had Anakin appear here during in his Clone Wars get-up, it's like okay. Like it doesn't look that bad because really you're only having the age Hayden Christensen like maybe 10 years, like 10 maybe 15 years, so it's not that weird looking. But here it's like, oh yeah, no, he does look like properly aged because
he is an old man at this point. This is end of the war. Anakin goes for.
Yeah, so like it would make sense for him to look like that. But also Shin,
that's where I'm very interested on, and
because we learned the fates of both Shin and Baylan, right?
Yeah.
Sort of like what happens with them so far.
Yeah.
We get one last bit. Shin essentially sort of kind of just goes to hang out with the like those roaming bandits and stuff.
Yeah.
Because he can't find Baylan. Meanwhile, Baylan's on his own little journey.
I don't know how they're gonna continue that. Ray Stevenson did pass away.
Yeah, that is gonna be the interesting part.
They're gonna have to find a guy who can really do that character justice as much as he did. But no, what really found interesting is that he would not only he found what he was looking for, right? That little area of stuff, but what he was on the mountain, that mountaintop, that's what really caught my attention. And this is why I'm saying like I think the Ahsoka show, and I'll talk about this a little bit after we're done here. But the Ahsoka show in itself is a really good show. It's a good show. But I feel like you really needed time to at least delve into, but now not just Rebels, but Clone Wars. This is one of those shows that like, okay, no, you need to know some shit because there is a reference to I kind of want to call them the Force gods or something. But they're essentially like it's the father, the daughter, and the son. And like the daughter and the son are both like manifestations of the dark side and the light side of the Force. The father being like the balance, right? And so it was like a couple episode specials of like Anakin and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan meeting them, because they see Anakin as the chosen one. They're like, you should stay with us. You can do all this stuff, and like that's what it was all. It was kind of what the show was. That whole episode was about. It was just like reaffirming the idea that this is sort of something like spiritual, magic kind of stuff that's in Star Wars. Also, like the personification of both the dark side and the light side, and how Anakin can kind of control it. All this really cool stuff that Dave Filoni has set up in Clone Wars, and now we see it again here in Ahsoka, which makes sense because it all kind of ties together. Don't know what the fuck is gonna happen though. But again, this is what I'm saying. Like, I feel like if you don't know much about that aspect of Star Wars that was set up, you probably wouldn't know where this could be going.
Right.
Because I know you've seen the episodes.
I think I do know because I believe it's one of those things of because Anakin does get like a glimpse into the future, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of goes off on the hinge of like, no, impossible, and they kind of have like a bit of a memory wipe.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you obviously can't have Anakin know that he's gonna fall to the dark side and become Darth Vader.
No, because that would defeat the purpose of the whole.
Yeah, so like obviously it's like a memory wipe, but still it leaves a little interesting lore implications about that stuff. And you're explaining that, oh yeah, that was what that was. You know, like in my brain, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I remember seeing those, and I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, that all lines up.
But if you have never seen Clone Wars, you wouldn't know what that was.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things of like, that's a nice, even if you don't know what it is, it's a nice teaser of like, okay, what's building up to, and you know, obviously you can look it up.
Yeah. Because Google is your friend.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you just don't Google any other random stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sort of that is sort of where the show sort of ends off, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ahsoka and Sabine are trapped on this planet, hoping for rescue. Ezra's back. Obviously, probably with the message of, hey, Thrawn is back, and he has a weird zombie army too that they can do, and we're gonna need to prepare. Like, it's interesting to see if, like, how, you know, obviously, I'm guessing this is gonna have a second season then. Right? I mean, it was 8 episodes, which I think is honestly kind of a nice, you know, a good amount of episodes, I feel, for a series like this, right?
Yeah, everything felt like, you know, it tied in well together, right? It didn't feel bloated. It didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome. It was like, okay, no, we have a beginning, we have an end. This is maybe how many episodes we need. We could maybe go for 10, but if we can finish it about 8, we'll be fine. And it turned out pretty well. Like, it wasn't like... Because, again, that was kind of always the issue with a lot of these Star Wars shows, is either they overstay their welcome, or they're too short.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say the same thing for the Marvel shows. But this one felt like a very nice, like... This didn't feel like it was meant to be a movie. This felt like... This did actually feel like it was meant to be like a short, you know... show. There's already conversations of whether or not they will have a season 2 because of where everything was left off.
Yeah.
And I could totally go see for season 2. Maybe we can see how Ahsoka gets out. You know, where Balin's going. And because I mean, I've heard people saying that Dave Filoni is supposed to get a movie.
Oh, that Dave Filoni is going to direct a Star Wars movie?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe like 2 seasons and then a movie. There we go. That's how you do it.
I mean, yeah, that could be interesting, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, from my overall thoughts for Ahsoka though is that it's a really good show. It's a good show, made for that certain Star Wars group that very much into like the lore and like the implications of like where stuff could be going. Because like again, it very much is built upon the backs of Clone Wars and Rebels. 2 things that Dave Filoni has worked very much well with.
Mm-hmm.
So. If you're a fan of those 2 things, this is for you. That's very much what it's meant for. Personally, for me, I would probably give this show more of an 8 out of 10. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the show for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to rank it with the other Star Wars shows, I probably would put. Obviously, I feel like Andor is probably like number 1, and then. Maybe the first season of Mando is probably number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ahsoka is probably either 3rd or behind the 2nd season of Mando.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, like 3 or 4.
Which isn't that bad.
No, I mean, because obviously the thing about some like a lot of these Star Wars shows, right? At least the live action ones, you know, like you said, you know, sometimes they're kind of too short and don't have enough development, or they kind of overstay their welcome and feel like, well, I mean, you kind of like, you know, it's like the Obi-Wan show. Yeah. Obviously, it was planned out to be a movie at the start, but then they turned it into a show, and you can kind of tell like, oh, this probably should have stayed a movie, you know, to cut out some of this fat and whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, it's kind of one of those things for me where it's like, I don't think any of the Star Wars shows to me are like, oh god, this is terrible, this is, you know, like god awful, I want to, you know, like just shut it off. It's more like there are some good moments in an overall mediocre show, right? Mm-hmm. Ahsoka doesn't feel like that to me. I think it is overall I would say a good show. Like, is it groundbreaking? No. And I guess compared to Andor, it's not like I said, it's not Andor, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I think it's fine where it is. Um, I think.
No, and yeah, you're right, and I feel like there is like ways you can improve on it.
Mhm.
it but like I said, I feel like it's meant for like that group of people.
Yeah. I mean, as a whole, I probably would just give this, probably like a 7.5.
Mhm.
I think that's probably right, because most of my issues with Ahsoka are more in that sort of, choreography, like art direction, that sort of thing, right? Like
Mhm.
it's stylistic choices that sort of just like, because yeah, like a lot of some of the colors are kind of muted,
Mhm.
like and stuff. It's like, why is it? It just feels off like that. But
When,
for the most,
especially when you have such good set designs.
yeah, I mean, there are some like, it's very clear like there's like this isn't like a show that's mostly green screen. Like
Yeah.
there's clearly they're on sets and stuff, right?
Mhm.
And that gives a bit more real feeling to it, right?
Mhm.
Much like how Andor has like actual sets and stuff that give it that give all those places like real, like they feel like they're living worlds kind of
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, that's how we feel about Ahsoka. Yeah.
Yeah. Now on to the world of Marvel with Loki.
Yeah, Loki season 2.
Ouroboros, they introduced my boy. Short round.
Yeah.
I love that guy. Oh my god, he's always my favorite Indiana Jones sidekick, by the way. I'm glad to see him doing good.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I mean he won an Oscar like
yeah,
what? Like last year?
yeah, for everything. Oh my god.
Everything at Everything Everywhere at Once, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah, yeah. It's a really good movie. Go watch it.
Yeah.
Um, but essentially, this is the aftermath of the events that happened in the first season, and like where we could be going off, because it starts off with like, now here I thought that it was Loki traveling to different timelines and stuff, but no, he's traveling to different like time points, periods of time.
Yeah, because obviously at the it's
Yeah,
like Loki meets Mobius and B12 is the
yeah,
name
yeah,
of the hunter lady.
yeah.
Um, but it's like, oh no, I'm in the past
Mhm.
because he does the shenanigans. No one knows who he is, but then he sort of comes back to like so the present, notices the crack, and it's like, is that crack? How long has that been there? It's like, and I think the one guy, I forget his name,
I know.
but he's the like the quirky like nerdy
Mhm.
sort of attendant there. Like he
Yeah.
met his first time. It's like it's the guy that had a bunch of Infinity Stones in his
Yes,
little drawer, being like, oh, they're just
Casey.
paperweights here. Yeah, Casey. And it's like, oh yeah, I mean that crack's always been there for as long as I remember. And it's like, and that's when Loki's like, oh god, I'm traveling between the past and the present.
Mhm.
Like he's pretty much like past, present, future stuff. Like wherever he's located, that's what's pretty much happening. But yeah, it's sort of like
B-15, by the way.
B-15. See, I was close.
You were 3 numbers off.
3 numbers off. It was still a multiple of 3.
Yes.
So I was on it.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's kind of just sort of setting up, the aftermath. You have, Mobius, B-15, and I guess whatever remains of the council or whatever of the TVA,
Mhm.
like learning, hey, yeah, the timekeepers, they're fake. What do we do? And it's sort of a debate of like either keep pruning, keep on doing the mission, or just like, hey, let's just, because obviously, like multiple timelines are now branching and stuff, right?
There's a morality question going around too.
Yeah, because they obviously all know the truth of like, hey, we actually had previous lives in the timeline,
Mhm.
but we were all abducted and now working here at the TVA. What do we do about that?
Mhm. How do we handle the moral situation that we've become accustomed to?
Yeah, like we're basically been mass genociding entire timelines because they're not perfect or whatever, all for some random thing. And what's the purpose of it all? And they eventually decide, hey, all right, listen, for the time being, let's stop pruning stuff. Let's figure out, what's going on here. And one of the council members, I think their name was Doe or whatever,
Yeah.
is like not pleased. I think they're like sort of the military aspect of the TVA,
Mhm.
and they're sort of like, hey, listen, we know who's responsible about this, Sylvie, right? You know, So let's just try to figure out, where she's at.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously Loki's still like warping in and out of past and present and stuff, and he manages to warp himself into the war room, and also reveal not only here's a videotape from the past of of He Who Remains talking to Renslayer.
Yes.
Right, because they're in on it. It's like, hey, you help me out, Renslayer. You'll help me with the TVA and stuff. All that whatever stuff, right? But basically, he reveals like that's the guy. That's the guy we saw at the end of time, basically. To at least the council, like he's the one responsible. And he talks to Mobius and stuff about it, right? Like, hey, listen, like Sylvie, kicked me back to here, right? And so I don't know what she did. She probably killed him, but he was like, it's the more question that was put into the, obviously in the last season, right?
Yeah.
Of, hey, I'm keeping a sacred timeline because I'm trying to stop all my variants. If you kill me, we're going to get the multiverse, and we're going to get a bunch of my variants running around who are way worse than I am,
Way worse than he is.
Yeah. So, that's sort of the thing they're at. And eventually they, meet Ouroboros, sort of trying to figure out, like, hey, how do we fix, Loki from,
I don't know if it was intentional, but I really like the idea that, one, he's called Ouroboros, which is the snake eating itself, right?
Yeah, it's like that sort of infinite loop kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And yet he's having this sort of infinite loop with with Loki, kind of.
Yeah, because essentially, while Mobius talks to like Loki gets transported back into the past, and they're just having a conversation, both past and present.
I really like that scene. That was so good.
Because where like Loki's telling him in the past about stuff, Ouroboros in the present is like, wait, that's not Pop. Oh, actually, wait, hold on a minute. Now I think I do remember that.
Yeah.
It's like, are you talking to Loki in the past? I guess. I mean, I do. I'm getting some memories about that. Yeah.
It's like, well, we need to build this one thing. Do you have it? No, I don't. Oh, wait.
I guess I do. Yeah, because in the past, like, hey, can you make sure you hold on to that until me and my friends talk to you? It's like, I mean, yeah, sure, I guess.
Kind of shit. That was pretty. I don't know. I just really enjoyed that joke.
Yeah, and that's sort of because obviously, like, they're gonna use that to fix Loki's little time jumping and stuff, right?
Yeah.
They have like this sort of like running clock thing. Like, hey, you got to make sure you basically what's it called?
Prune yourself.
Yeah, prune yourself. Loki has to prune himself. Well, just like right after Mobius does a thing.
Yeah.
To the temporal shroud or something like that. I think. It's pretty much the timeline basically. So that way Loki essentially can erase all his versions of himself in order to keep himself planted or whatever. And there's a running theme. Loki gets, I think, sent into the future a little bit, so he still kind of has some time. But he also, right as like Mobius does the thing, Loki is trying to find a pruning device, and he hears a phone ringing. He gets, I believe he sees Sylvie, right?
Yes, that's what happens.
Like, and then just in time, like, he gets pruned, but I don't recall who does it. Because it doesn't look like he did it.
No.
Like, but someone from behind prunes him.
Yes, I think that's what essentially happened.
Yeah, so basically, it allows Loki to sort of get back to the present. Although I'm pretty sure, like, that whole time displacement thing is still going to be an issue for him. As we've seen from some of the trailers and stuff. But yeah, pretty much, that just sort of like, it sets up like probably the big thing of like, hey, the TVA or at least a big faction of it is gonna try to go after Sylvie, right? Of like, like she's responsible for this, let's go after her and stuff. While Loki probably is also gonna try to find her and be like, hey, we gotta fix this kind of thing.
We
right?
we gotta fix this. But it's also interesting because towards the end, B-15 and the other hunter guy are like, what's going on?
Yeah, because they do see like just how much stuff they're moving out and all this weaponry stuff. It's like, hold on a minute, do they really need all this stuff for Sylvie? That doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it does. It sets up something larger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Loki, at least from what I recall from the first season, was always kind of like one of those interesting things.
Yeah.
It was like an interesting show, setting up, the multiverse and all this other stuff, right? So it's kind of interesting to see where this one will go, right?
Yeah, I feel like they're more or less focusing on the aspect of time than rather than multiverse. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong, but essentially, because towards the end, it implies that Sylvie is back in 1982.
Well, yeah, she's also
Mm-hmm.
looks like she's going through time and stuff. Um, that's gonna be interesting to see as well. Obviously, oh god, I forget his name. But Kang.
Yeah, yeah, Kang.
Yeah, the actor for Kang is gonna be in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's also just gonna be one of those things about it as well. Maybe we'll see multiple variants of him and stuff, because obviously now we know, hey, we gotta stop Kang and all his other variants. Make sure we stop the whole crazy multiversal war that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
right?
I'm trying to find more stuff about it. But everything seems about we're around the money. Um, Essentially, yeah. I mean, who knows where it goes from now? Because like everything's up in the air. And I think Loki still proves to be probably one of the more better shows, and the ones that actually was made to be kind of like a show.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it's because Loki is the premise of Loki itself was always interesting. So I feel like they're obviously able to like bounce on it, and it's also one of the few Marvel properties so far in this sort of new multiverse saga that feels like it's propelling the story forward.
Yeah.
Right? Because so far we haven't really like obviously a lot of Phase 4 was just sort of like kind of random stuff going on that without really sort of like a big unifying moment of like, this is a new era, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of the thing about Loki, and I think there's also probably gonna be the same thing about the second season. Like, all right, we'll see more of like the behind the scenes of maybe seeing where Kang and all his variants are doing and all that stuff. I think that might be interesting to see. But yeah, it's a solid first episode. A lot of interesting concepts. I think it also looks really good. I mean, in terms of like the cinematography and stuff,
Yeah.
You gotta like that style from Loki. That sort of like office space and stuff. It's always been like
the browns and the
it's always been like
this show is the one that really does need that muted colors because it's supposed to feel like some sort of like depressing office area.
Yeah.
Like that one makes sense compared to like some of the other shows. But yeah, no. Very excited to see where Loki is because it's one of the few Marvel properties I feel like people are actually excited about because like right now we're in that period where like everyone's kind of tired of the Marvel movies, and a part of me just feels because I think they wanted it to end a while back, but they just didn't.
I mean, yeah, it's always that's always been like a fair criticism of the Marvel cinematic universe of like Endgame was like the perfect way to end it, or like why are we still making these? I mean, obviously you know why we're still making these. They make money.
They make money. I mean, also, and this could be another thing, an episode of itself, right? Talking about the idea of overly long storylines or stories like that of comics, The Simpsons, even so like stuff that just keeps on going and doesn't stop, right?
Yeah, like at what point do you just end a show or a franchise, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously the answer is like, I mean, as long as until it stops making money.
That's the capitalist way of saying it.
I mean, that's the only real answer.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's like we felt it was right to end it this way, or that sort of thing. It's like the right moment, but there's other things where it's like, hey, as long as it keeps making money, we'll milk the shit out of it.
Yeah. It's just that you get one every year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the only reason why people are slightly more okay with Fast and the Furious movies, because they're not every year.
Yeah, I guess you don't get a Fast and the Furious movie every year, but at the same time, it's sort of just like
That one also overstayed its welcome.
it feels like it, right?
Mhm.
I swear to God, there's gonna be one Fast and the Furious movie where Dom just punches an alien while going, "This is the power of family."
Just make it more anime. Just do it.
Yeah, just make it Speed Racer. Make it Speed Racer.
Just get us another Speed Racer movie, man. Just do it.
Daniel would approve of this comment.
Yes, he would.
Yeah.
He would. He would probably approve of the fact that I would say get the guys who made Fast and the Furious do that Speed Racer movie, and just go more over the top.
Yeah.
He would love it. But anyway, guys, I think that's a good place to end it. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to follow us on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're most active on Instagram. And on there, you'll find a link tree to all the podcast sites. We're officially part of Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, any of the like, and a link to the YouTube for all your audio listeners out there who want to put a face to the voice. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and there's the Patreon. And yeah, that's about it for us.
Yeah.
We'll keep talking about this when we can, and we'll see how far we go. It was me, your boy Eli.
Me, Joe.
You guys have a good one. Peace.